You are now listening to the Claphouse Chronicles. Enjoy.
Welcome, everybody. You are listening to the Claphouse Chronicles. I'm your host, Rhythmic Friction. Today I'm joined by Colter Young. He's an engineer, inventor, you name it. He does it all. How you doing today, bud?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty good. Having some coffee, just enjoying the day.
Right on, right on. Well, we're going to dive into a lot of things today. I'm pretty excited. You got a lot going on. Let me fix this real quick. There we go.
How's that sound, everybody?
Yeah.
That sound any better?
Yeah. We're always fixing stuff around here on the fly. Yeah, so Colter, you and I have a long history of making things, doodads.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on. We've had some fun, that's for sure.
Yeah, you helped me make some 3D printed parts for some of the lighting props I do, for staging and all that. And yeah, you do a lot of your own stuff, which we're going to get into. That's a little bit later. Earlier last year, we had started a project that is still on the back burner, but I think we, if the stars align, we'll get it going again. But it was called SPARK, which stood for Sustainable Power and Recycling Company, because everybody loves acronyms. And that was kind of a focus on recycling properly, which there's a huge problem in the U.S. with that.
Worldwide problem.
Yeah, worldwide. But
start at the home. Start with the consumer. Start with the people, the users of the trash. Start with them.
And and part of that was turning it into energy, because there's a lot of technology now that can basically vaporize trash, turn the vaporized bits and turn that into energy.
So just pretty much get it out of the ocean before it even gets there. So turn it into energy instead of put it into the ground or wherever it ends up.
Unfortunately, there's a recycling problem in the U.S. and it's really hard to get efforts like that off the ground, which I actually have some friends that are doing some really good work overseas with a recycling project and basically getting plastic out of the ocean. So I'm hoping to have them on when they come back through town.
Yeah, you should see their new setup. I've seen some video of them. They've got a plastic shredder, which would have been really cool when we were doing our upcycling through Spark. And then I see them also starting to kind of form a sorting line, which is, basically the essentials of plastic recycling, is try to get it classified into common materials.
I dig it. It's good stuff. But that's still coming along. We're working on it, right?
It kind of got unmotivated on my end, just to see a lot of.
Well, it's hard because it takes a lot of effort, and we're both pretty busy with our own endeavors, which we're gonna get into. As a matter of fact, you came up with a really cool design, which I saw in person. Do you have it with you? The Annihilator Broadhead?
Well, actually, I don't have one with me right now.
I'll post links in the description, in the show notes.
So I can't take full credit of the actual exact, design that we ended up with. I'm working with this group of guys that are expert hunters, expert bow marksmanship or marksmen and sportsmen, and they had come up with the idea of a fixed blade broadhead that really a completely unique design of what's on the market. we'll have to cut in some video of what you would see typically out on the market before, the last couple of years before these guys came up with this idea, and then you'll see what we have come up with. Right now, there's actually an archery show going on, and we'll probably put some more pictures in this section here. But these guys are standing there making deals with dealers to get these arrowheads out on the market. We've currently sold out. I think the number's like 45,000. Also, we'll put another link to a YouTube video review where these things are just hit all high scores on the review. So it's been a heck of a time, getting everything lined up for these shows.
And real quick, for anyone who doesn't know what a broadhead is,
oh right, if you want to,
it is, in layman's terms, just a big ass arrowhead for killing big ass shit, like bears. You could probably blow a softball sized hole through a grizzly bear with one of them things, I reckon.
So that's the idea. The concept behind this arrowhead, it's like the tip of the arrow. You see archers just screw on different ones, kind of like how fishermen have different lures. Well, they tune their bows specifically for these broadheads, and this is designed to go through shoulder blades of large animals like elk, bear, moose, and be shot at 80 to 100 yards. And this is unheard of in some of these groups. So it's a unique design that's cast and then sharpened with a $500,000 sharpening machine, and it's been a fun project, that's for sure. We just got a second size. We stepped it up to a 150 grain that's legal now in Colorado. We had technicalities with the diameter.
What's that for getting like a Yeti? Something real big.
So for me, I'm not a guy who likes to see animals. I'm not a hunter. I don't like to see them die. I just prefer not to be that person. I've had some experiences where you see an animal get wounded and you just don't feel very good about it. But what makes me feel good about this product is that if somebody was going to be out there shooting a bow, this will effectively kill the animal, like dead in its tracks. And that's something that makes me feel a little bit better, that the animal's not going to run off, get wounded, and then maybe have an infection, and then the animal carcass die, it rots, and other animals get sick off of it, and it, the actual intent for the hunting of taking the animal home and eating it with your family didn't really pan out.
That's something I've noticed with you, man. Like, you're not a hunter per se. I mean, I'm not a hunter. I would be if I had the skill, but I don't. So, but you take an industry or something that you don't like about it, and you invent something that can help it in certain ways, because there's a lot of different things we're going to be talking about, a lot of different industries, and which is really cool. One of the other things is, which kind of ties in with archery, broadhead, arrowheads and things like that, is the backcountry compound. Yep. Which I saw one of those in person, right? That was at your house.
Yep.
It looks like a little kid's compound bow, but it's got some power to it. Explain that a little bit, because I don't know the science behind it.
Well, that's something that I got kind of introduced by the broadhead industry. This guy saw some of the stuff that I put on the internet, and from the word of mouth, came to me with an invention that he had. Is a bow and arrow, kind of a compound bow, is typically, I don't know, about twice the size of this bow. So you're walking around with something that's about this big, through the woods, and it's a lot. It catches on a lot less stuff. It has the same amount of power because of the way that it's set up, but the thing is just miniaturized. And the inventor of the bow had spent years perfecting the design of it by trial and error, and he had asked me, hey, can you take this bow, reverse engineer it, come up with with what makes it work, why does it work the way that it does, and then help me design a kind of a formula to design or develop different sizes, because this is a 27-inch draw, and the market will have different size people, so he wants to be able to produce this bow at different sizes. So that's kind of what you saw.
And the draw is when you pull, how far you pull
right,
it.
Yeah.
And that's important if you're in really close quarters, like in the bush or something, right?
Well, it actually just depends on the length of your arm up into your basically your nose. So people have different length arms. So
I don't even know this
right.
stuff, man.
So bows are from what I'm learning from these groups that I'm working with. Bows are a very, very custom and specifically tuned instrument that is tailored to your body. So I mean, everything's very proportional and offset by some string or some sort of a pulley somewhere. What's interesting about these bows is that I've heard stories that the people will take these to competitions and get laughed at because they're so small, and then by the end of the competition, when they're kicking everybody's butt, these guys are hey, what is that bow? What is this thing? So this is an exciting project. I don't know if we can share any photos of it right now.
We'll post a link of that
can,
and the Annihilator Broadhead on the
that'll work. And
in
then
the description.
Yeah, and right now we're actually getting the bow scanned. There's a really precise 3D scanner that a buddy of mine has, and so hopefully the owner will let us share some of the 3D models with you, but I wouldn't count on it.
Cool,
not until it's probably finished. That's how they are, though. Sometimes it's a little bit.
Let's talk big boom, bro. Archery's cool. I got a bow.
Yeah.
It's a recurve, like Legolas, bruh.
Well, that bow's mine, so let's go out and practice. I've never.
There
even
was
shot the
an
thing.
archery range.
Never even shot it at all. He sent it to me. It says it's $1,000 bow. We just take it out, shoot it.
Yeah.
Shoot in the air.
What? So let's talk about some big boom. Muzzle brakes. What the fuck is that? That's like yeah, I don't know. What is a muzzle brake?
A muzzle brake, that's what's on the end of a rifle, mostly. Probably put on a pistol. And that helps direct the gases as it exits a gun, and to make less, I guess, recoil, where it pushes the gun back, and it makes it so that you have to take another half second to reposition the gun before you can shoot it again, or it makes it so that you can't follow the shot through the sight because the gun's moving around. And so the idea of a recoil is to take those muzzle gases and slow them down and spread them out as it exits the gun. So that's another project I'm working on using this fluid flow software.
That's what you did. You go to school for that? Is that what one of your main studies was, or that's what you did for work for a while?
Yeah,
at least
that's what
I
my
know
job
that.
was.
Yeah,
I went to school to be an engineer. Found out that engineering was not really my role in life. I mean, I like engineering. I appreciate it, but today engineers are more of a production worker, or like a cog in a machine, where you're just expected to do a specific job. Where kind of the idea when you get sold to be an engineer when you go to school is that you get to be this kind of R&D inventor that's kind of like the the talks to the owner of the company and makes big decisions. You get to do that as an engineer, but at the same time, you're pretty far down the food chain in the company, and you put a lot of effort and your energy into these products and developing something, and then you're kind of just like thrown to the side of the road when they're done using you. And so I just made a lot of people rich, and I decided I'm not doing that anymore for anybody else. So I do engineer a lot of stuff. It's just I do more of consulting, design consulting, and kind of more of a get people that have a product to make it better and inspire them to take it to the next level. And I just use tools, whatever tools I need, essentially.
And that is more available to people, or you can do more with, because we have things like computers, cool software,
big memory, big hard drives, terabyte size stuff,
3D printers, things like that, where you can actually materialize the things you need and actually test things out and go from there. That's the future, I think, because the robots are taking our jobs, man. Except for me, because I'm a musician, so I'm pretty much good to go, right?
Yeah,
no one wants to hear a robot musician. That's a novelty. It'd be cool for a second, but
it would just be too, I don't know, programmed. Wouldn't be enough soul in it.
Ain't got no soul, robot. So that kind of goes. You've got a lot of people you work with that you help develop new projects, new things like that. New products. But you also have a lot of personal things that are doing a lot of good for people around the world. Maybe not so much in the U.S. because we have, but
once we get Spark back up and running, we'll be back in local.
Spark's gonna be killer. SparkCompany.com.
Yeah,
that's still a thing.
Yep, check it out. I still send
it looks
people
so
over
good.
there.
My last name's spelled wrong on the site, but hey, it looked good.
Is it wrong?
Yeah.
Man, who did that?
I don't know. The intern. So that's gonna come along one of these days. It's going to, because we're gonna make it so. I just need lackeys. I need goons to get that kind of stuff going.
Yeah, we just need some. Gosh, what would it take to get that project off the ground? We just need to work with more people within the city, to get more permission. It seemed like at first, they kind of wanted to push us out, but once we started kind of working with them, they wanted to bring us in. It's just really hard to get into that kind of industry without a contract.
I was literally just going to say, there's a lot of strangleholds on things. Like, for instance, Idaho's not very... we don't have a very robust recycling infrastructure. So you can have a company come in, take a contract for years, and be like the exclusive this or that for this county, for instance, or this city. And then let's say you have this really good idea or this invention or this technology you want to bring in and go, okay, let's do this. We'll collect all the recycling and all the trash and do that. Well, you can't, because there's actually a contract that's still going for the next, so many years. So then you'd have to go to smaller towns where it'd be good for test runs of things like that. But in the long run, it's kind of hard once you get into the bureaucracy of it all. Well, we will one of these days.
Another thing too is that the farther down the line, farther down the line from the consumer, down to the landfill, is not only deeper in bureaucracy, like Jeremy was saying, but it's actually gets more and more mingled. So the trashes get mixed more and more and more and more. I mean, we put a lot of our stuff in this blue recycle bin, but then that blue recycle bin, 98.9% of that actually ends up in the landfill again. So it's just really, it's just like, I don't know what's the word for it, like,
disheartening.
Yeah, I mean, what the heck, guys.
It makes you not, and then people go, well, what am I doing? Still recycle and clean your plastics before you throw them out, and just do it right and do the best you can, because it does help.
The main idea with Spark is that, try to get the stuff sorted, as far up the line as you can at the consumer, have 20 recycle bins if it was feasible, and to be able to just put that specific trash in there, because at that point, milk jugs are like worth 50 cents a piece, you guys. So like, if you didn't know that, collect all your milk jugs. And
just have a shed
take
full
them
of milk
over there,
jugs.
and like you'll have $1 if you have 2 of them, and it's crazy because once you put it in the garbage, it's not worth anything because somebody has to put in $2 worth of work to get it out. It just doesn't work anymore.
And that's something that we deal with in the U.S. is like recycling and little things like that. But in Africa, they have problems with heavy metals being put in human bodies, human systems, and river systems and things like that. And that's something that you've done a lot of work to help combat. Maybe that wasn't your original intention, but it kind of worked out that way, where it's doing more than what you intended this device for, and we can get a close-up of all that in a second and kind of show it in action. But
yeah, and I want to kind of give a little bit of history on that first. When I was working on a piece of, actually I had 3D printed a test system to sort of validate some of the software that I use in my design consulting role. Basically, I wanted to try to see what the particles would do in a specific environment. And I had basically a 3D world, where everything is perfect and particles, come from endless amounts. And then I have the real world where I need to validate that the computer software model or the simulations are accurate. So I had this idea to print a miniaturized hydrocyclone, and basically the 3D printer was in a valuable tool for me because I was able to print the whole system in one part, where I didn't have to buy valves and tubing and framework and stuff. And it was just basically a small unit that I intended, somebody to be able to take up backpacking and put dirt in, and then have a little jar at the bottom where gold and black sand would fall out the bottom, and then all the rest of the stuff would come out the side. And it would basically be a filter for, you have non gold bearing material and gold bearing material. And this little thing was kind of just like a little kind of a hobby thing that I just did. And gold was appealing to me because
everybody like gold. Come on,
everybody
now.
likes gold, and also it's heavy. It's super heavy. So if any of the particle simulations were going to be accurate, I could determine right away which is using gold particles. I mean,
gold's not magnetic as well, which is important.
It is,
coming
and
up.
So you'll maybe we'll talk Jeremy into putting the swirlizer intro cut into that here, and then
dude, I can splice some things in here. I can put it all in there.
It's cool. Man. It's really cool. And so it kind of hit the internet, and it had like 5,000 views on my LinkedIn, and a bunch of people contacted me in the gold industry, and they they wanted me to help sort of come up with new designs. A lot of that stuff didn't really appeal to me though in the gold industry, because 9 times out of 10 it's more of the weekend warrior. It's a hobbyist, somebody who has a lot more money than most. And I noticed that all the swag and stuff was 4 times the price. Like you go buy a gold pan at one of these shows, and they're, these golden treasure shows, and they're $40, and you go on Amazon when you get home and they're $16. And so I I understand where they're coming from. I personally like to prospect for gold. I have a YouTube video that I do a lot of gold prospecting, a YouTube channel where I do a lot of gold prospecting how-to videos, and so I kind of understood what these guys are coming from. But what appealed to me most was in other third world countries, these guys are dangerously, kids, young adults, everybody in the family, orphans, are digging down into these into the ground and crushing up the material and using with their hands and without any protective material, working with mercury and cyanide, and in Africa and Chile and
for pretty much no money.
Oh, like $4 a week they're getting paid for this, and a lot of times they get paid in pay dirt. Like they don't even know the value of the dirt itself that they get paid in, and they take this home, they grind it up in their kitchen basically, and then they take mercury because it's readily available, and then they process it right there in their family living room and light up the mercury fumes, and everybody just kind of in the house is inhaling this. And this is kind of a day-to-day thing, and they'll come up and they'll just squeeze out the mercury with their hands, and they'll have, a little gold ball, and every, week or so they'll go trade it at the market, and they'll have $60, $70 of a gram worth of gold, and they'll probably end up with $25, $15 when they end up trading it in, because they don't even know the value of the gold itself,
and then they die.
It's actually
just like that.
I mean, they're dying not just like.
You want that out there?
Yeah, they're
you want little kids doing that out there, people?
Anyway, so
what does the matter with you?
So
you're fixing it.
No, I'm not.
With science and technology. No, you've developed some things that will help.
I've developed some things that are appealing to some people over there that are putting together programs to help eradicate mercury and cyanide from the processing itself. And I've got a couple inventions, like I talked about. The swirlizer was one that they saw, and another magnetic separator that takes black sand and takes that right out of the gold bearing material and separates it without using any mercury. And this won't really appeal. I mean, this won't, I guess, fix every one of their problems, but if they use some of these devices in parallel or build a system out of them, then they can get a lot better yield out of the gold that they're losing. And so basically it will offset the amount of money that they will earn from their daily work without having to use the mercury to get out of the finer gold. So they'll be able to actually pull out some of the more valuable gold in this mechanical processing that we're talking with these guys. I'm sending some magnets over there. I'm actually. They don't have they don't have money. They don't want to. They don't want the donations. They say give us trade, not aid. So I made a deal with them. I will send them magnets. These magnets that I invented that will be really handy for their processing, for dirt, for African pay dirt. They're literally going to send it to me.
So mercury is magnetic, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
and
I don't know. Maybe
it somehow removes these, right?
So what mercury does is later on. So you'll see a lot of processing happening, and so you'll imagine it coming down off the mountain, and then it gets ground down, and then they use like a typical sluice box or some sort of a riffly like system or some rags or some way of catching these small particles. Now during this process right there, there's a lot of iron sediments in that slurry, and so when there's so many iron sediments, it actually makes the sluice process less effective, and so they will be missing about, let's just say, I've heard actually figures up to 75% of the gold, the big gold, right there in that process, because that they don't have an effective way of catching it. And so this magnet system, it takes the black sands away from the catching area to allow it to be more effective. And they're super cheap. And what's great about it is that they're going to be sending me this pay dirt that I'm going to be able to analyze here at home. And they're going to be able to take these magnets and then basically help educate and show that they're safe alternatives. And so what I'm going to do with the pay dirt is I'm going to analyze it and make sure that that I design a specific swirlizer or hydrocyclone system to send to them that that they can use. They could 3D print there at their, hopefully a community college maybe nearby. They can buy a couple $150 3D printers off the internet, set them up, and I'll send them the file. And let's in the idea is that they're gonna test it out and hopefully use less mercury.
Yeah, because no one likes Mercury.
Well, it's nasty stuff, and
Dude,
it's not
even the planet Mercury. Not a great planet.
Well, it's not.
Kinda
It's
lame.
not only the fact that these people are just ingesting mercury and it's getting into their systems, but it's getting into piles of dirt that are piling up and piling up and piling up, and then rivers happen, like floods. The rainy season of these countries will happen, and then these containment ponds that have this mercury and cyanide overflow into the river systems, go down into the lower valleys, get down into our oceans. And what's really bad about mercury is that it accumulates in biology or biological animals or whatever that's
Ecosystems.
right. So if the small fish gets eaten by the bigger fish, and then the bigger fish will have 2 small fish worth of mercury, and then a bigger fish will eat that, and so eventually we'll eat the fish, and then that fish will have elements of the mercury, up to all of the mercury that had all those fishes in a row had eaten for the, it could be years and years of just, fishes eating each other before we eat it, and then there's that high concentration of mercury in it. And that's where all that mercury is coming from is mining and, stuff like that. Some volcanoes, but
Yeah, they're all right though. We like volcanoes; they're kind of cool.
yeah.
Except
They're on the
ones
other
that are
side
close
though, where
to-
they're making land. and not in the ocean.
Yeah. That's some pretty interesting stuff. Do you want to see what's it? The magic bit. That is something kind of along the lines of the swirlizer, but
So the
A little
swirlizer is basically something that takes the light material and separates it from the heavy material. Once you have a heavy concentration, your heavy materials, you need to separate the magnetic from the non-magnetic. And so the magic bit is a handheld version of a magnetic removal system that works in parallel with the swirlizer. But I wanted to show the way that this thing works here so that you guys can kind of see the technology that we're working with, and then we'll go over where you guys can get one and all that too.
and
Yeah.
we're also going to be posting all of Colter's links to his websites, to all of his YouTube channel, all of your videos and things. So if you want to get a closer look or more in depth, you can see all that. We can even make a little playlist. But yeah, so the magic bit is super cool.
Cool.
That can be used in a panning device, like the little looks
Yeah.
like a wok with ridges on it, and
Exactly.
it's right there.
So basically, it could be used by hobbyists. My main target audience. Yeah, why don't you grab that thing? My main
Cool, dude.
My main target audience is actually that weekend warrior. And this is actually really cool. It'll make their lives a lot easier. It works with wet material, dry material. I specifically designed it so that it didn't infringe on anybody's patent, and so that
That's so. Good on you, but
Oh,
that's
yeah.
so fucked. Oh my gosh, that people.
Well,
let's just
here's-
make cool shit and
here's-
help each other grow.
here's
baby.
the severity.
We don't
of
need
this.
money, man.
I actually posted a video on YouTube of this one video of me doing this, and the guy who also sells magnetic separators. Not going to mention any names, but his website rhymes with spinitoffsucksmydick.net. We can edit that out, right?
No.
Okay,
It
anyways.
was all concrete, dude.
Anyways.
We're in it to win it.
So,
But yeah.
so anyway, so he ends up seeing this, and this is what pisses me off so bad, is that he sees this, and he's like, you know what, you're competing with me, fuck you, I'm going to buy your a website domain name for one of your products. And
The fuck?
no, I'm serious. He went and
That's
bought
petty,
swirlizer.com.
He did?
He did. And that's why I went
Where's
and
he
bought
live, dude? Let's find this dude. I ain't scared. I got no priors.
I'm not, dude, don't worry
I ain't got
about
no
him.
priors. Oh,
Dude, don't worry about him. He's
Bah!
I mean, he told me that he has over $100,000 in his retirement and everything.
he about to have $100,000 in medical bills. He keep running his
invested
mouth
in all
like
this
that.
stuff. So, anyways, it pissed him off that I came up with a really inexpensive, similar like product. That's
better.
That actually I think is better because
Yeah,
it's cheaper.
better.
Anyways, man. So he sells his product for $137, and I sell this thing for $25. And let's just see what it does. You want to show him what it does?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. The way this works is I have magnetic black sand in here, and then I have basically precious metal at the bottom to represent the non-magnetic sand that needs to be separated. And so what I'll do is I'll use this magic bit. See how it's spinning that way? Okay. Now watch how this works. I'll put it under the pan. See the magnetic motion? Now what this does is it gets the magnetic material to walk away from this gold. Now typically you don't want to use a magnet around gold or any sort of metals like this because it could trap it inside the black sand and move it away. Well, this actually makes the black sand literally like a motor walk away from the pile. And it's advantageous because it doesn't bind up the material. It could be loosely scattered. Get it go the other way. There it is, everybody. Magic bit. All right, so the way I sell these, they come in this protective case that makes it so that magnets don't roll around and get stuck to everything. And then I also include some magnetic black sand and a little bit of copper that you saw down in this pan here. And so I like to include that so that people who are using this can test it out just like they saw here and right away understand the physics of the device before they take it out into the field with just some common everyday items. And then basically, yeah, so that's kind of the package. We'll have them over at the Kids Fair 2020 this year. If you're in Boise, come see me and Jeremy. We'll be working it. And I want you to know that every single one of these that we sell, we're actually going to be sending another one to Africa as hopefully help alleviate some of this mercury mining. I was able to get a hold of the magnet manufacturer and get a really, really good deal because of the cause. So that actually helps us out, pass on the savings to you guys. So, yeah, check us out, man. check us out at the kids fair this year and get one.
Sweet. Well, that is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for seeing
Yeah.
thanks for seeing the product. Thanks for having me on the
Yeah.
show.
What do you think about, so with all this, with 3D printers, with drones, drone deliveries, all these different things, what do you think the future holds with all that? You think automation? I think that automation will take a lot of jobs, and that we'll figure out something that will kind of alleviate the pressures of that, but it's going to allow people to do more things like what you're doing, inventing things or developing current technology and making it better. And
Absolutely. I think we live in an awesome time. What a great time to be alive. I mean, we go out on our computer, click a button, and in a couple of days, we get whatever we want. And as long as we have enough money in the bank account, that happens. But back to your point, like, is automation, is the technology going to take over the world? Well, back to my example, like, less than a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, we all got a letter in the mail in Boise saying that we're not going to get mail on like Saturday and Sunday anymore. And then all of a sudden Amazon takes off and we have, more mail than ever. I come home and not only is my mailman still delivering mail on Saturdays and Sundays, but I have like an Amazon truck drop off two or three things, a UPS truck drop things off, a FedEx truck drop things off on Saturdays and Sundays. So, think about it like that. There's a lot of jobs being created.
Don't be scared. It's all good, man.
But I think the big one in today's world is this Industry 4.0. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, what is the Industry 4.0?" I mean, it's cool, it's awesome, but it's really the technology of today coming together. We're talking like cloud computing. We're looking at taking devices, IoT, Internet of Things. We're taking like Nest, and we're taking doorbells, and we're tying our whole house together. Then that evolves into the IoT, the industrial Internet of Things. So where you got processing plants with all these remote Wi-Fi sensors, talking to these computer databases that are not even at the facility. They're hosted in the internet in some database.
Or in the agriculture, you have like big machinery that's going and obtaining crops and harvesting things. All these harvesters that are in sync without anyone in the actual machine itself. That just are on a grid communicating to each other.
What
a time to be alive,
and that's what I was getting at is that
ain't got no soul, robot.
You're pulling all this information together, and what are you doing with it? You're bringing it into this integrated environment where, like you were saying, the agriculture, you're scanning the surface in front of the machine, and it's telling the machine, the tractor, how much fertilizer or how much how much water to add, and you're adding that to like GPS data, LiDAR data. All of these different sources of information and databases are becoming integrated and combined because we are now able to use these massively large cloud computing servers that are on the level of terabytes.
Bro, even in the weed industry, I worked at this one place, and this was, few years ago. It was briefly. I don't like the big 9-to-5 grind, as you can see. But it was, they had these fertilizer and nutrient systems that had various pumps and all these systems with touchscreen devices on the walls, and you can just beep beep beep, and everything was censored.
Everything is controlled. It's a specific recipe that's producible, reproducible. It's not just the weed industry. It's the corn and the
everywhere.
milk and the
Yeah.
Cheerios and everything you buy has specific specifications that all these factories are doing, and we're just becoming into this age where it's all kind of just coming together. It's awesome. I love it.
Future is now.
Well, and the only drawback is just how
foolish we are as
exactly
humans. That's the main.
how foolish are we? I mean, every one of these technologies, they are costing. They're not only costing us money and on our hard-earned labor, but they're also costing Mother Nature a little bit. Where do you think these memory chips come from? Well, where do you think all of this new technology that we didn't have a couple years ago? Where it all comes from processes that are pretty intense and wear down on the environment, and it is eventually we won't have all these resources to develop these awesome things. So, and especially if we're just throwing it away, that's what, especially with what we saw with our recycling venture, is that for every person assembling a piece of item or an item that became a product, essentially, if you wanted to recycle it, you had the same exact size industry disassembling products on the other end and classifying into the right categories into, most of the time, parts that could be reused over and over and over again. But, who wants to take the time to, take everything at the junkyard or the dump
and sort it
out and put it in
Yeah.
bins? But
We've done that. It sucks.
yeah.
No one wants to do that. It sucks.
It's actually not that bad until you start finding like hypodermic needles and shit in where you're working. And
Dude, I found a crackhead in a pile of trash. I was like, "What the hell are you doing
tell
in
you
here,
what, man. When you see those guys working at your local recycling facility, it's a thankless job. I mean, that stuff is in the recycle. I mean, it's nasty. And don't put your hypodermic needles in the fucking recycling, or your shoes, or your fucking engine block,
diapers.
or your,
come on, you dummies!
Yeah, come on, Boise. That was
and
bad.
everywhere.
We should post some of the pics. I got some pictures.
We'll post everything. We're
Yeah,
gonna
we should
we're gonna
do
put
that.
all your links up, everything that you've been working
Right
on.
here, there'll be a picture of us in our first upcycling facility is the back of a U-Haul truck.
Oh yeah, I haven't. Oh man.
Yeah, you'll see where where the rubber hits the road.
A real bona fide Murph.
Yep. So, anyways, that
You know what a Murph is? Remember what?
manufacturing? No.
I forget. I know you know what it is, but I forgot what the acronym is. Everyone loves acronyms.
Material refurbishing for the earth.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Facility. Very cool stuff. Thanks for coming over, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is cool. We don't always film. We won't always film. But when the stars align and it works out, we'll do it. It was cool. We got to actually see some products in the studio. So thank you for joining the Chronicles here.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, and I think last time I said I was going to post some music, like a little song at the end. I think this time I will.
This time I will.
Yeah.
We'll do it, man. Do it. We want to see some of your stuff.
But yeah, we'll have you back on in the future. Definitely check. Where is the kids' fair?
I think it'll be just at the fairgrounds this year. It's like
The Boise,
February.
the Idaho
29th.
State Fair Expo grounds.
Yeah, we're gonna be.
We'll
doing
post
a
another
booth.
link to that because
Look for me
details.
and Jeremy because
I'm gonna be. I
he's
like
gonna,
helping
he's
my
gonna
boy
be
out.
working the show with me.
We help each other out, man.
So
It's cool. We got a good thing going.
yeah, it'll be fun.
Yay!
And remember, it's for a good cause. I mean,
Do you want kids dying of mercury and cyanide poisoning?
it's look
no,
it up,
you
man.
don't.
If you're not squeamish, I mean, like what actually happens to people when they get poisoned with it?
We'll post a link to that
No,
too.
no, we're not. Posting It's gross. Don't look at it.
Woo! All right. Well, good having you, man.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
Hey. Bye.
Taking on my body. talking my mouth.